Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a down south education on Florida sports and athletics. It's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 38th installment of Palm Tree Sports. My name is Corey Pujols. I am your host. And as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As I mentioned, good evening, everybody. It's a wonderful Saturday down here in South Florida. The weather's doing pretty good today. Hasn't rained on us. Sun is out. So there's a lot of things to be excited for, including what's going on here in the world of sports. The biggest news that I have for you guys is going to be coming out of the MLB and also out of the College World Series. We'll get into that a little bit later on. Also, we just wrapped up UFC Fight Night about 15 minutes ago. I watched most of the entire card. It was an absolutely phenomenal card. There were a few blemishes, but I will say that this had a ton of great fights, so we'll get into that also momentarily. But guys, let's go ahead and get started with what we always get started with, and that is the cream of the crop, that is the NFL. Alright, so you guys, in Tampa Bay, we've been discussing this pretty much since the offseason, since Tom announced his retirement, and it's just been a whirlwind down in here in Tampa, to say the least, specifically with our quarterback controversy. The Buccaneers famously do not have a solid backup to build off of, and as a result, we're in this situation where we have both Kyle Trask and we have Baker Mayfield fighting for the starting position, okay? Now, what that means is actually a lot, because the truth to the matter is, and what we're going to get into first, is about Kyle Trask, right? So, unfortunately, Kyle Trask has not been able to develop properly in the NFL the way most backups do, especially sitting behind the GOAT. Now, I understand it's a tall task, an intimidating task to back up the GOAT, but at the same time, you got to learn something, right? There's got to be some type of knowledge that you learn that gets passed down to you. So I imagine that he has learned things, but perhaps they're just not showing themselves. And unfortunately, that's bad news for Tampa Bay, as when you lose the GOAT, the question kind of becomes, where do you go from here? And unfortunately for Tampa Bay, the answer doesn't seem to be very promising, at least from the Kyle Trask perspective. Now, I've gone on record to say that I believe in Baker Mayfield. A lot of people seem to not think that he has proven himself enough, and I can understand that. Again, I am one of those people who knows a lot about, college football from the standpoint of watching it, and let me tell you, he was a gift in college football. So I believe that he can summon that ability, and we're going to have to see if he can do that with Tampa Bay. He has a tremendous wide receiving core to be able to do it with offensively, and a pretty solid defense that should rank in the top 10, possibly even the top 5 this year. So guys, I'm not sure what's going to take place. Of course, this is just speculation, but one former backup quarterback in Sean King says Kyle Trask stinks. That should tell you everything that you need to know from the standpoint on whether there's faith in him from the organization and also the players around him. And unfortunately, I just don't see it there. I don't think that Kyle Trask is winning anybody's heart over. Watching him in practice, he doesn't quite seem to be as leader heavy and as technically driven as some of the other players, especially when you have players like Mike Evans, like Chris Godwin, like Levante David. Okay, these guys drill, and yes, Kyle Trask has shown that he can play quarterback, but at a high elite level that we need at Tampa Bay, I don't know if he's the answer. So it's looking more and more every week like Baker Mayfield is going to be the answer. I'm hoping that he's a good answer and that we can plug him in and play well nonetheless. There are a lot of teams that do not, a lot of people, not just teams, but people in general who do not think that Tampa Bay is going to do much of anything this year, which again gives us the element of surprise. I mentioned that about a week ago. So guys, I look forward to seeing what Tampa Bay is able to do with that element of surprise. But as I mentioned before, the NFC South is clearly the weakest division in all of football, and that does not bode well for us, especially in the NFC, which is not particularly as strong as the AFC, guys. And that's something else to take in consideration. All of the firepower is in the AFC, guys. Tom Brady was the last real beacon, I guess you could say, over here, especially since the fall of the Rams, right? So it is what it is, though, guys. Let's go ahead and move on over to the Jags. I'll let you guys know right now, today's show is probably going to be considerably shorter than it normally is. But again, you know, we're just in the off season for so many sports and coming to the end for college baseball. So, you know, that's just part of how it goes. But don't worry, there's plenty of off season stuff that'll keep us, you know, on the ball and keep us focused on what's going on out there. Chief among them, the NBA draft, which we'll get into in a second. I absolutely can't wait to talk about that. Now, with the Jags, the biggest information and biggest news coming out of Jacksonville, aside from the UFC fight card, which took place there in Jacksonville tonight, is that their stadium name is also being changed. So as you guys know already, the Jags are having their stadium renovated. They're basically getting almost an entirely new stadium, in which they have been looking to the Daytona Speedway to possibly host games while the stadium is under construction. Amidst that, the TIAA Bank is going through a name change, switching over to the EverBank name, which is what they will be called moving, you know, forward from this point. And so as a result, the stadium's name is also being changed. So guys, look forward to that. For those who are used to it being the TIAA Bank, it will now be the EverBank. And guys, so just be prepared for that. Don't let it catch you. Don't let it, you know, deprive you of knowing who's playing there and whose home that is. Jacksonville Jaguars, just new stadium name. And so that happens all the time also, guys. So, you know, keep that in mind. I saw a post on Twitter amongst all of the Twitterverse chatter that asked a good question. Said, if you could go to any stadium in the world, if you could visit it for a game or for an event, which stadium would it be? Now, a lot of you may not know this, but as a diehard Tampa Bay fan, because Tampa Bay, you know, had been up and down and relatively a young team by the time that I started watching football, which would be 1998, Tampa Bay was a great team, but football was such a big sport that I found myself watching other teams. The second team that I would watch the most was the San Francisco 49ers, and as a result, I always wanted to go to Candlestick. Now, Candlestick is no longer there. I believe Candlestick Park is there, but Candlestick, the stadium itself, is no longer there. Stadium has been rebuilt since, and as a result, a lot of the heritage as far as the classic feel of that stadium has been largely forgotten. So for me, that would be my gift. I would love to see where Jay Rice and Joe Montana played catch, throwing catch, if you will, against other teams, absolutely destroying them. And I would love to be able to bear witness to that sight, that physical sight. So that would have been my answer for that question. But, it's essentially same things what's happening to the Jaguars. Now, among other information that's coming out of Jacksonville, which is very interesting that I mentioned before, that the UFC Fight Night was held in Duval. Well, as it turns out, the former Jaguars defensive end, made his debut there in the UFC. So he is a converted football player turned UFC fighter. Now, there have been quite a few of those guys who have, switched sports, perhaps realizing that their calling from a physical perspective may very well be in mixed martial arts instead of football. I would even classify myself as one of those people, because football is the first sport I ever played. The only sport that I train for or have any type of connection to at this point in my life is actually mixed martial arts, specifically the Thai striking package that I'm working on. So, and I look forward to becoming better as an all-around martial artist as that time comes. The young man's name was Austin Pan, I think it was Payne, or I believe it was something like that. I can't exactly remember. I saw the name and I know it, but his first name was Austin. I think last name was Payne. And unfortunately, the fight ended 23 seconds in due to accidental eye poke. So the fight was ruled a no contest. So guys, unfortunately, those things happen. But it'll give him the chance to go back, get back into the gym, and learn about those eye pokes and how to properly navigate not letting that happen to avoid a no contest, which essentially isn't a waste of training, but wasn't the best way to go out on the fight. One of the ways that I have learned, and that I see, to cover the eye poke problem that is in the UFC is to actually just close the hand entirely, and where you would block using an open hand, block using your fist. The only difference is your fingers won't be adjoined, but you can still get the block. So, but big props to him for realizing his dream, perhaps away from football, and congratulations to him on getting into the octagon. It's no easy feat, and I look forward to emulate that sometime in the future. But with that being said, let's move on over to the Finns. The Finns also don't have as much information coming out of them, unfortunately, due to the fact that, again, their squad is pretty set. They are still in pursuit of Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook has mutual interest in them, so we are just waiting for a possible deal to get done, and, we'll see what happens there. Of course, again, Miami is the best fit for him, and it's hard to see that another team would be better than the Dolphins should they be able to land Dalvin Cook at that point, now having A++ wide receiver followed by an A++ running back, as long as he can stay healthy. Same thing with the quarterback position as well. So good luck there to Miami. I hope you guys are able to get Dalvin Cook. I just hope you don't have to play Tampa at any point. But we're going to leave it at that, guys. Tyreek Hill, guys, is being investigated for alleged possible assault. Now, I stress the term alleged impossible, guys, because for those of you who follow any type of media outlets that talk about the quote-unquote abuse, one of the things that I will say is that there are a lot of times where, let's just be honest, there are entitled people in these athletes' lives, and when they don't get what they feel like they're entitled to, and I hate to say it like this, but in a large part seems to be their significant others or their female partners that this takes place with, there is a corruption of details that's just thrown at the cops, in which now you have people like Tyreek Hill and Jonathan Majors and a few other guys who have been accused of, hurting and or putting their hands on, their significant other or females that, they have some type of relationship with. I don't know what the truth is. I just know that with more money comes more problems, and this is very well one of them. So good luck to Tyreek Hill. I hope that he did nothing wrong and that this is just a complete misjudgment by the counterpart in this situation. Unfortunately, it is not, my job to be able to judge that. That'll be up to the authorities, and so I'm just wishing the best for him, because it would be terrible for the Dolphins to lose him. And also, I don't necessarily believe he's that kind of guy. Now, obviously, we can't judge a book by its cover, but as I've mentioned before, this is a situation that has plagued athletes for many decades now. Okay, so hopefully the situation can be rectified, in which everybody can go back to their normal lives and Tyreek doesn't have to worry about disciplinary actions. Unfortunately, if he did do something, then hey, the standard is you must be held accountable. Okay, so it is what it is, guys. Now, let's go ahead and move on over to the NBA. Let's get out of the NFL. Let's move into something different. And with the NBA, yes, so the NBA draft was a very interesting one this year. I'll say this. A lot of teams that needed draft picks got them. Okay, so we're going to have a even bigger balance than what we did of last year of young to older players ratios. Well, what do you mean by that, Corey? I'm going to tell you. Out west, you have the Lakers. That's an older team. Okay, they did get younger, but obviously a lot of those players, at least a good amount of them are not going to return to LA. Meaning that you still have LeBron, you still have AD, you still have some of these older guys in LA. Unless LeBron retires, then the team would get younger. You have Golden State, which is an extremely veteran team at this point. They've been together for 4 championships. So, that's a big deal right there in itself. Damian Lillard, Jimmy Butler, they're all getting older as well, and they're in the East. So it just goes to show you that there is a balance between the young fellows and the older ones, in which we're starting to see this league change its guard, if you will. As far as the draft is concerned, I do think that the Magic definitely won as far as their draft picks were concerned, getting Anthony Black and Jet Howard, 2 stud players coming out of college. I look forward to seeing what they're able to do. I don't like to comment too much on the skill differential between college basketball and NBA basketball, and there's a reason for that. In other sports like baseball and football, there's a clear differential between college and the pros, and what that means is most of the time in those sports, you're not just going to have a rookie come in and start immediately, unless they're one out of that 100, right, that they are just ready to go. Like, you can't find somebody better even if you look for starters in the NFL at the moment, right? And then you also have those guys who they didn't play at a school in a division where the talent is A1 talent, right? So, and a perfect example would be a lot of the time when you get starters coming out of college, a lot of them come out of the SEC, okay? There's a reason for that. And yes, I'm a Gator, but that doesn't have to do with it. I can confirm to you that the way we play football down in the SEC is more aggressive, much faster, much thought out, with much better defense than the other conferences, simply because of the preparation and the competition around. See, the SEC routinely has anywhere between 5 to 10 teams ranked inside the top 25 at any given time. That's about 35%, okay, on an average base. So take that in consideration. About 35% of the top 25 comes out of the exact same conference, in which all of these teams have to play each other, okay? I'll give you an example. At one point in time, you had Alabama, LSU, and Auburn all ranked in the top 10 in multiple times in the last 2 decades. Okay, and when I mean multiple times, I mean like multiple years until they effectively played each other. One year specifically, Alabama was the highest ranked. They played Auburn, who had already beaten LSU while LSU was ranked in the top 10. Okay, and they beat Auburn on the Alabama on the last play of the game. For those who remember, it was a 108-yard missed field goal return for a touchdown on the last play of the game. Okay, guys, so that's an example of what I mean when I say that some of these college guys, they come out and they're ready to play. In basketball, that's not necessarily the case, right? In basketball, you have guys who skip college and just go from high school to the pros. Kobe, LeBron, and those are two of the top 3 players to ever do it. Okay, so I want you to take that in consideration. Whereas there is a bit of a layoff time for football, for baseball, in order to improve, overall fundamentals, skill, all of those things that go into playing the game. With basketball, you can, truly just be that good, and then you're just plug and play, right? And like I said, Kobe was a perfect example. LeBron is an even better example. From the way that he led the Cavaliers from his rookie season on is just absolutely an incredible feat. So for these young guys, I look forward to them coming in with also the Rookie of the Year from last year. If you guys remember, that the Orlando Magic have a team that was able to beat Boston in back-to-back games. Guys, that to me is not a fluke. That is a team that has the ability to get it done. Now they just have to get the surrounding pieces. So I look forward to what the Magic are able to do. I look forward to Anthony Black and Jet Howard being able to prove what their worth is, especially here in the pros. Congratulations to the Magic there. The Heat, I don't think were as splashy. I unfortunately did not get the young man's name, so that is my fault. I do apologize, guys. But they did get a high draft picked in, and by high I just mean, I believe it was top 20, top 15 or something like that. And I look forward to seeing what they're... But the biggest thing coming out of Miami, let's just be frank about this, is the mutual interest between both Miami and Damian Lillard. I don't know if Damian Lillard is enough to help them power past the Nuggets from a player-to-player perspective, because obviously, the Joker is just that guy. Like, he's completely unstoppable. But it's very possible that a small lineup could dominate them by going faster and being more consistent. I think Damian Lillard is a perfect fit in that regard. I still think you're going to need another powerful big, somebody to help Bam. You're going to need Twin Towers if you want to stop the Joker. Okay, let's just be honest. Let's just be frank about that. You're gonna need Twin Towers. You're gonna need guys on the perimeter that play extremely well in transition and can hit the 3-ball. That would be Damian Lillard. I look forward to seeing the Heat acquire him. If they cannot acquire him, it would be the loss on Miami's part, because wherever he does go, I believe that team would become a game changer type of pickup for them. So, I really hope Miami gets him, but again, we'll see. Damian Lillard is just one of the best shooters, one of the best guards in the league. All right, and he has been for quite a while now. So, good luck to Miami. Good luck to Damian. I would love to see that marriage made out in heaven, I guess you could say. And perhaps that could be the push that Miami needs to return back to the finals and actually win a finals, as Eric Spoelstra is now 0-3 in his last finals appearances. And that is just no bueno for South Beach. So that's everything, at least that I have right now for the NBA. Yes, and as I mentioned before, I think that the Magic did very well with their pickups. And they also, if I remember correctly, signed 2 guys from the neighborhood for all intents and purposes. So that right there, keeping it in-house, that's something I always love to see. Same thing with any of the other sports when them drafting any of the talent here from Florida. So again, congratulations to the Magic, and if the Heat are able to land Damian Lillard, congratulations to the Heat. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into our break. When we get back, we'll go ahead and get over and cover what's going on in the MLB. We'll talk about the UFC fight card a tiny bit, and then I'll give you what to look out for tonight, as we do have a couple of star-studded affairs, especially with the College World Series for the men's bracket that will be taking place tonight. So we'll get into that momentarily. Again, my name is Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports, which is brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, it's your boy, the SoCal Saint, the host of the premier professional wrestling podcast online today, the IE Elite Wrestling Show. If you're a fan and have a passion for the world of professional wrestling, this is the show for you. I take you inside the ropes with all the athleticism, high-flying, and hard-hitting action, and then we take it backstage with all the backstage drama and backstabbing that goes on in the world of professional wrestling today. If something's going on in the world of professional wrestling, rest assured, the SoCal Saint knows what's going on, and he's going to let you know too. If you're a fan, check us out every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on IE Sports Radio, the IE Elite Wrestling Show, your direct feed for all that is professional wrestling on the only network that is your direct feed for all that is sports. Check us out.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Alrighty guys, welcome back to Palm Tree Sports. Again, my name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always is brought to you by Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, so check this out. So the MLB is in a very interesting spot right now. Okay, so Major League Baseball hasn't seen the Rays play this well, I don't think, in the history of the Rays, that is. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because let me put it to you like this, actually, instead of saying it the way I was going to say it. I saw a post, and maybe I'll start adding these in because there's some very interesting things we talk about on Twitter. But on Twitter, we were talking about the MLB and what team, we would like to see in the World Series and or win the World Series. I mentioned before, being here in Tampa, that obviously I'm a huge fan of Tampa Bay Rays, which means my choice is the Tampa Bay Rays. I'd absolutely love to see them in a World Series and actually win it. We are 0-2 in World Series. I believe we got swept one of the times. I'm going to be a complete honest with you. The second World Series, I think it was, that we went to, or was it the first? The first World Series we went to, it didn't go too well. Me and my family, my dad probably remembers this in chat, went to New York style pizza out in Ybor City. And guys, if you don't know what Ybor City is, it's basically like a hub for young people, but has it's a strip, so it has a ton of things to do. Restaurants, there's a theater, there's a what do you call that, where the comedians come to make you laugh, an auditorium, if you will. There's a bunch of things out there, and amongst them is a New York style pizza, one of the very best in all of Florida. And so we watched the game there, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I got soda drunk. Okay, I was a young kid, so basically I drank a lot of soda, got a lot of caffeine and sugar on me, then I crashed, and I was just kind of sitting there like, I ate too much pizza, had too much soda. I'm saying to tell you this, the game was not going well for the Rays, okay? That's the point behind me saying it. It was absolutely a horrific destruction of my home team. This is back when B.J. Upton, I think, was on the team along with Longoria and, all those guys. So this was some time ago, but you get what I'm saying. Basically, I would love for my team to actually bring home a World Series victory. Tampa is known as T-Town or Title Town for a reason. We have championships in both the pro football and the NHL hockey scene. Miami, which is a team that is loved by a lot of people in Tampa, also has multiple championships when our illustrious king came down here and won 2 out of 4 with D-Wade, which was just a wonderful marriage made in heaven. And then you also have D-Wade and Shaq, who took it home in 2006, I believe it was. Absolutely phenomenal stuff from those guys. And, obviously with Miami going through the struggles that they're experiencing now, a lot of our love and hope is put into the Rays, as both the Panthers and the Bolts were eliminated from postseason playoff in the NHL, leaving just the Rays as the lone team to win it all for us this year. Obviously, we don't expect much from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, like I said before, just a really big deal for the Rays and really hoping that we're able to bring it home this year. Playing at a tremendously high pace. Unfortunately, the biggest struggle for us is staying healthy. Amidst that, somehow, by the grace of God, our boys are still first place, still the hottest team in baseball, and still conquering yet every team put in our path. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to win every game. That leads me to the game that's going on right now. Now, guys, the last time that I saw the game, unfortunately, I cannot watch it with my current TV provider, so I have the pregame on for the men's or College World Series, which we'll talk about in a moment. But the Rays, the last time that I saw the score, were down 8-4 in the bottom of the sixth to the Kansas City Royals, okay? So, guys, this would be my first time engaging the chat from a vocal standpoint. But, guys, can y'all put the current score of that game in the box? I, again, have my screen on ESPN at the moment, but I haven't seen the score pop up on the bottom, and when it does, I'll put it out. But I haven't seen it yet. So, if somebody would be so kind as to put the score of that game in the chat for everybody to be able to see, I would greatly appreciate that. As for that's what's currently going on for the Rays. However, there is one more game to be played against the Kansas City Royals, which will be tomorrow at 1:40 p.m. As you guys know, a lot of Sunday baseball down here in Tampa, Florida, being played around that 2 o'clock margin. Okay, 20 minutes from 2. So be prepared for that, guys. If you guys are looking for something to watch around lunchtime tomorrow, that'll be your go-to. It's the final of the 3-game series against the Royals before Tampa Bay moves on over to the Diamondbacks, okay? The Diamondbacks are currently losing their game 5-7. I did not see who that they were playing. I only was able to get a quick glimpse at it, but the score of that game is 5-7, not their way, so they are losing at the moment, and that's always good news for Tampa Bay, who's a shark in, a shark in water, just sensing blood right now. And if we can stay healthy, we'll be, cruising, if you will, right along into the playoffs and also the All-Star break, which I can't wait to see. Now, as far as records are concerned, the Kansas City Royals don't have an illustrious record at all. They're sitting at 21-55, almost the exact opposite of the Rays record, which is at 53-26. So obviously we've lost a few more games than we've won, but off the 2-game series against the Baltimore Orioles, we were able to 2-0 them, which is a humongous deal, as the Orioles have been one of the better teams inside the MLB. So just knowing that Tampa Bay is able to roll in there and absolutely shut down some of the other better teams gives me all the love and the hope in the world for these boys to be able to handle what's necessary. And in order to bring home a title for us, we're going to have to do that, especially in the playoffs. So again, right now, staying healthy is the most important thing. Wins and losses will come as they come. We are playing tremendous baseball, but our guys have to stay healthy. And Franco has to become a quote-unquote better teammate, okay? Unfortunately, he was benched during the last game for being in unquality teammate. Now, it's hard for some of us to believe that considering his production on the field, right? The guy's an absolute knockout of a ball player, okay? Guy's nutcase, okay? He's really good. But unfortunately, you have to be a good teammate. You have to be a good friend, and he has to figure out what it is that's got a vice grip on him, seal it, and play the game, okay? Nobody wants a guy that's going to be a great ball player, but he's going to be a piece of crap to his teams, all right, guys? And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what team you're on. Good team, bad team, I don't know. But you know what, Larry? You ask a great question. Why does everyone hate on the Rays Stadium? Well, see, here's the interesting, that's a tremendous question to ask, and that's why I want to share it on the air. For those of you who have not been to Tampa Bay or necessarily know about Tampa and its surrounding area, Tampa Bay actually plays at the Tropicana, which is located not in Tampa. It's over in the halfway closer to St. Petersburg area, and St. Petersburg is off the water. So, for all intents and purposes, look at it like this. If you guys ever seen Pirates of the Caribbean and they go to Singapore and you see Singapore's off the water, that's how St. Petersburg is. You have to cross a bridge, the Howard Franklin Bridge to be exact is the name of the bridge. You have to cross that bridge to get over there. And yeah, it's basically just an extension of Tampa, an extension of Central Florida, if you will. But it's the Tampa Bay team that doesn't play, for all intensive purposes, directly in Tampa, whereas the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are located almost in the middle of Tampa Bay. So when you go to Raymond James Stadium, the easiest way for a lot of people to get there, especially if you're coming from the north or the south, is on a highway called Dale Mabry, which isn't actually a highway. It's just a four-lane road-ish, 3-4 lane road that happens to be a hub with a strip on it, right? So every store you can think of in Tampa is located on Dale Mabry, or at least directly off of Dale Mabry. So you have a lot of Tampa Bay fans who have to travel to get to the Tropicana, which, compared to Raymond James Stadium, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play, all you have to do is jump on Dale Mabry and either go north or south, and you're there. Boom. Because it's right off of that in MLK. For those of you who have MLK in your city, you guys know what I mean. There's an MLK street in just about every major city. So there's that for a quick geological lesson as far as Central Florida is concerned. So we love our team, hate the location of the stadium. I'll tell you this, though. I've been to quite a few Rays games, and the Tropicana is kind of the Rays' home for me. It may not, well, we may be due for a new stadium. Obviously, I think the Rays should have a stadium here in Tampa. The problem is Tampa has become completely robust in its human aspect, where we have, I think, doubled, possibly even tripled the amount of people that live here. As a lifelong Floridian, I can tell you it wasn't this bad, or there weren't this many people 10-15 years ago. So we'll see what happens. The city's being developed all over the place, which could lead to a new Rays stadium. So stay tuned for that in the coming few years. It's been talked about for a while now, but we'll see what happens. It's a great stadium though, the Tropicana Field. I personally love it. I've been there quite a few times, easily 5 or 6 times, I think, with my old man. He can also attest to this. But it's a great stadium. And they also usually, back in the day, what they would do after the Rays games is they would have a concert of some sort. And so that was one of the things that made it such a fun thing to go. Because you're going to a baseball game, right? And then after the baseball game, somebody's performing, and especially if it's somebody that you like. Now, I remember we went there and the group U2 performed afterwards, and that's a legendary group in its own right. So that was the most memorable one for me. I believe we won that game, and then afterwards they had some fireworks and everything. So what a great game that was. What an experience it was. I'll say this one more time. I absolutely love going to baseball games. It's funny because I know there are a lot of people who say it's a boring sport. I can't sit there and watch it, whatever the case may be. I'll be the first to tell you, I love that place. I really enjoyed it. Shout out to the Rays. Keep playing good baseball, guys. Like I said, next series against the Diamondbacks, that's going to be a 3-game series. That starts Tuesday, June 27th, 9:40 p.m. So that's a little bit later start time than what we're normally working with. But hey, a little primetime baseball, if you will. Well, a little bit later than primetime, but you get what I'm saying. Some late primetime baseball. Rays, Diamondbacks, Tuesday, June 27th. Be on the lookout for that, 9:40 p.m. And then, as I mentioned before, the last game against the Kansas City Royals will be tomorrow at 1:40 p.m. That's what's going on there for the Rays, and then we'll go from there after that. I believe after that we got another 3-game series. So I'll be back with you guys next week on that information as we get closer to it, because I don't want to overbear you guys as we do the show every week. But yeah, I agree, that is super annoying. Teams should be in the city. But hey, what can we do? We're just fans. Maybe we can start some petitions, because Tampa has the money right now. There's no doubt about it. They're building everything you could think of here in Tampa. Okay, we even have a midtown. So back in the day, we only had downtown and we had the city. All right, so you go further south, you run into downtown Ybor area, and that's Party City, if you will. So now we have a midtown for all the college students and for the what do you call those guys? The nomads, the people who come in, live in a place for a year or two, and then they leave. So that's kind of what Midtown is. But yeah, a little quick lesson about Tampa, guys. Didn't mean to get off beat there, but it was just something kind of fun to talk about. Now, the UFC fight card that took place tonight, okay, was in Jacksonville. So that was the first cool thing. A lot of native Floridians fought today. 3. 4 of them for sure, I can confirm, were from Jacksonville, so I can only imagine what that's like to be able to perform in front of your home team. The fight card was absolutely phenomenal, so for those of you who have the ESPN app and have the sign-in for it, I would encourage you, if you missed it, go watch that card. What a phenomenal card it was. Easily had three different fights that could have gone fight of the night. The main event, Topuria versus Emmett, was absolutely incredible. Topuria is him, guys. He is next up. He has showed us that he has every single tool that it takes to be that guy in that division. Unfortunately, he still has to deal with the pound-for-pound king, Alexander Volkanovski, and also one of my favorite fighters. And then Yair Rodriguez, perhaps the most technical striker in the whole of the UFC, or at least in the 145-pound weight class. So guys, go back, check out that fight. You guys know, if you watch, Josh Emmett is an absolute dog. His heart cannot be understated. So, you know, I don't think he's ever going to hear this, but if you do, Josh Emmett, dude, you're a dog. You're a monster. Congratulations. I know you lost, but I am very impressed with the amount of heart that you showed. The beating that you took is not for the faint of heart. And, you know, to Topuria, congratulations, man. Again, you are the real deal, undefeated fighter in the top 5. I look forward to seeing what's going to take place after the Rodriguez versus Volkanovski fight. But let's be clear, Volk versus Rodriguez is absolutely gonna be a banger. 2 of the best strikers in the entire division, in the world, to be honest with you. So look forward to seeing that. Great fight night. Go back and watch it if you haven't seen it. And also the girls fought very well tonight too. So if you guys, you know, like to see a little bit, you know, see the men and see the women actually put on a wonderful showcase as well in their couple of fights that they had. So like I said, go back, check that out as we get ready for UFC 290, Volk versus Rodriguez. Now, moving on to what to watch for tonight, because that was technically part of it. So the UFC Fight Night usually takes place a little bit later on. Because they're on the East Coast versus the West Coast, it took place at 3 p.m. So the prelims actually started at 11 over here, which is just nutty. I very rarely ever watch sports before 12 because most of the time they don't start before 12. But this is one of the examples of that taking place. Prelims started at around 11, like I said. Main card started at 3, just ended at 5:52, I think it was 5:50, something like that, 5:50ish. So, real quick, just a quick backup there. The Diamondbacks are playing the Giants. It's the top of the 9th, and the score of that game is Giants 7, Diamondbacks 5. Again, I mentioned that due to the fact that the Rays will be playing the Diamondbacks next. So, you know, just keep that in consideration for all you Rays fans out there. If you're watching the game right now, greatly suggest that you guys tune in to that game to have a look at the Diamondbacks, as I believe this will be the first time that we're playing the Diamondbacks this season. I have to go back and check that detail, but I believe this is the first time that we are playing. So the Royals did defeat the Rays 9-4, guys. Just want to go ahead and also put that out there. You know, the Rays just played absolutely zero defense the entire game, and there wasn't very good a very good pitch count being utilized by our pitchers. So, you know, whenever you have a situation like that, it's going to be hard to outrun the opposition, which is what Tampa Bay is known for. And for those who do not know, yes, that is 100% a viable strategy when you have the type of bangers that Tampa Bay has on our team right now. You know, with Lau and all of those guys, just in general, or Randy Arozarena, Franco. You know, we just so many, you know, bombers on the team that you can just outrun everybody. Unfortunately, we were not able to outrun Kansas City. So, you know, it is what it is. But, yeah, so back on what to watch for tonight. Like I said, UFC fight card would have been one of the things. If you haven't watched it, go back and check it out. Secondly, for tonight, we have some AEW wrestling, as the second episode of Collision is going to be on tonight. That should be on TBS, I believe it is. So look forward to that if you guys want to see another main event. Yes, CM Punk will be wrestling again, along with a ton of other big names. Been a really good week for AEW wrestling, to be honest with you. Both Dynamite and God, what's the other show that they have on Friday? Rampage. So Dynamite was phenomenal. Rampage was very good as well. I look forward to Collision stealing the show tonight. I'm very happy that they added a third, show for all of us to be able to watch, especially for those who love pro wrestling. Myself included. I love pro wrestling. It's a great storytelling, great athleticism. It's something that can leave you in awe if you're watching for the right reasons, watching for the right things. So now, guys, before I get ready to close out this show, we're going to talk about the one thing that I would love to see more than anything right now at this exact moment. Okay? Our Florida Gators, all right, have once again made it to the College Baseball Men's World Series. Okay? Huge deal. All right, so you guys may know this. The Gators won their first World Series, I believe it was in 2015, 2017? It was 2017, I think it was for men's. I think it was. So, let's go, boys. Like, that was our first World Series. We got tons of SEC championships. So, Florida's known for being in the mix all the time in college baseball. Okay, all the way back to the 80s. That's when we first started playing good baseball, and then from that point it kind of hasn't stopped because we're playing the late 80s, early 90s, early 2000s, and here we are in the 2010s when we won our first World Series. Now we're looking to win our second. But unfortunately, we have the 5th ranked LSU Tigers to see. So I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I love LSU, okay? There's a reason for that. I'm not the biggest LSU fan, but I love LSU because the Gators play LSU every year. Okay, we're eternal rivals. That is our rival in the West. People would think it's Alabama, but that's just because Florida and Alabama have met in so many SEC championship games. That's neither here or there. Guys, Florida LSU is basically the same thing as Florida Tennessee. It's not the biggest game, but it is always a great outing. Okay, always. And what that means, it doesn't matter if it's college basketball, if it's college football, college baseball. Florida versus Tennessee and Florida LSU come second and third only to Florida Georgia and Florida Alabama. Okay, and if you want to include Florida State, but Florida State's a little bit more of a formality because both these teams are across the street from each other essentially. In other words, what I mean by that is we know we have to play them. Okay, obviously we know we have to play LSU, but they're not in our conference, right? They're in the West, we're in the East. So this is going to be a tremendous game. I myself am looking forward to watching it. This game starts in 13 minutes. So if you don't know what you're watching tonight, or you don't have anything to watch until AEW Collision, which starts at 8 o'clock, guys, Men's College World Series, it's going to be a slobber knocker. It's going to be LSU, 5th-ranked LSU versus 2nd-ranked Florida, and you guys know what I got to say. Woo! Go Gators! Let's go, baby. So, I love you guys in the blue and orange, and I am wishing nothing but the best for you guys. Like I said, I'll be watching. I have all the faith in the world that you guys can bring this home, okay, and bring us our second national championship. Now, that's pretty much it for our show today, guys. As I mentioned before, I am always on Twitter going back and forth with a bunch of different things, sports-wise. So whatever your hot take is, come holler at me. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Like I said, it's going to be one hell of a series tonight, and starting tonight, I should say. And again, also if you're looking for anything else to watch outside of that, just to have something to flip back and forth, AEW Collision's 2nd episode tonight. And then, of course, like I said before, one of the best UFC fight night cards that we've had this year. Go back and check it out. It's on ESPN. And let me know what you guys think. Again, I was a huge fan of it. And also a little tidbit, too, for those of you who, if you go back and watch the fight night, Josh Emmett terrifies me as a human being. So to see Topuria completely destroy this man for 5 straight rounds was an incredible sight, guys. It was absolutely incredible. We're not going to see too many performances like that. Josh Emmett's absolutely a killer and a dog, so I look forward to seeing what both these young men do moving forward with their careers. But yes, go check that out, guys. In the meantime, between time, that has been it for me. We'll be here same time, same place next week, Saturday, 6 p.m., Palm Tree Sports, Corey Pujols. I am your host, and just some food for thought, guys. Spend time with your family, spend time with your loved ones. If you don't have a family, spend time with the people who spend time with you. Okay. love is out there in many different shapes and forms, and you don't have to be alone in this world. So find whatever it is that you love and do it and take off. I'm just now learning to do it myself with martial arts, and let me tell you, the natural high that I get by being in Kaizen. Shout out Kaizen. I can't wait to get back to you guys. I miss you guys. But, the feeling that I get from being in there with my coaches and being in there with these other, martial artists and people who are looking to do the same thing with their careers is otherworldly. It's a love and a passion that I didn't know I could feel outside of football, and I just look forward to being back there every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month. So soon I'll be back. Can't wait for that. Like I said, in the meantime, between time, do what you love. Spend time with your family. Enjoy the weekend, guys. If you're going to church tomorrow, be safe going to church. I will be there myself, and we'll be back in contact with each other next week. Same time, same place. I look forward to you. Thank you for, to everybody that's here listening to me. I love you guys. Again, have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you next time. Right here, Palm Tree Sports Radio. As always, powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Good night, everybody.